KR Moore, coming to you live from deep in the mountains of the Missouri Ozarks. On Thursday, the third day of May, it is May, year of our Lord 2018. Welcome to the John Moore Show. Well, the headlines today have to do with Rudy Giuliani, which most people know Mr. Giuliani as being the former mayor of New York, but he was also a federal prosecutor. He's a very bright guy, very well connected. And I think that Donald Trump bringing him on board as part of his defense team is a brilliant move, and that this will help bring a rather quick and proper conclusion to this whole witch hunt, which I think is the best way to describe what Robert Mueller is engaged in as a witch hunt. Okay. Prepper tip of the day. I want to encourage all you gentlemen, you want to be a hero, gentlemen, you want to, do this. Stock up on feminine hygiene products and birth control products. That's what you need to be doing. You get discounts, and when you get case lots, by the way, you should be able to find case lots of these items on either Amazon or eBay or both. That's your prepper tip of the day. We're going to have open lines this first half hour. Second half hour, we'll have Tom Berryhill joining us, talking about our favorite product, the energy cleaner, for about 24 minutes. And we'll have open lines again the second hour. We'll talk a little bit about preparedness here, what it really is. Now, preparedness during a long-term crisis. Not short-term, but long-term, something that goes on for months, if not years. What they've been living with, for example, in Puerto Rico now for, I guess, about half a year or so, hasn't it been? First of all, it's not going to be what you see in Hollywood films about zombie apocalypses, although that's a remote possibility. Now, what's going to be, it'll be more like Little House on the Prairie, 99% of the time, unless you do happen to live too close to an urban suburban area, where it might be closer to road wire a good percentage of the time. But seriously, if you have taken my advice and you're going to be at a hobby farm a good distance from a major metropolitan area, it's going to be a peaceful, quiet life 99% of the time, where you're engaged in the things that routinely take place right now on a hobby farm. Gardening, animal husbandry, all the different chores that take place around a hobby farm, equipment maintenance, carpentry, plumbing work, electrical work, all those things. That's what's going to be taking place 99% of the time, if you've done it right. If you've got your hobby farm at a good distance from a major metropolitan area, you've become part of the community. The community is looking out for each other, taking care of each other. That's the way it should be. Now, 1% of the time, and these are just kind of percentages just thrown out there for the point of discussion, you may be engaged in dealing with a pack of wild dogs, maybe a bunch of wild pigs, other predators, including the two-legged kind of predators, criminals who want to steal what you have, kidnap your teenage daughter, and do whatever it takes to accomplish those goals. So men tend to focus on that 1% a lot. It's kind of wired into our DNA. If you're a healthy adult male with the traditional values and beliefs of an American male, that your job is to protect the women, you'll focus a lot on that 1%. That's expected, and you should be focusing on it a lot. Don't overlook the 99%, but do focus a lot on that 1%. We got a caller on hold here. We got Rick in Missouri. Good morning, Rick.
Good morning, John. That certainly fits my description. Since I think we have all been exposed, particularly lately, to the value or the profit involved in sex trafficking, I think we can all clearly see that women are a valuable commodity. And,
well, do you know why? Do you know why?
Because they cook and clean. No, go ahead.
Well, here's the from the point of view of the sex slave trader. A pound of cocaine or a kilo of cocaine, which I think is 2.3 pounds, can be sold one time. A woman can be sold several times a day for
the gift that
possibly years into the future. So that's what makes a woman captive so valuable to that kind of criminal activity. Go ahead, Rick.
Well, so now you know what your ammo supply should look like. I wanted to mention something that I saw recently. In fact, I guess it was last night and this morning. I finished it up. Was an interview between Dave Hodges and Paul Martin. This is with regard to some crazy stuff going on down at the southern border. Some, I guess, what they're suggesting is reasonably reliable, open source and closed sourced intel, and witness from truck drivers delivering, and that is how they're massing all kinds of equipment down at the southern border. And apparently, I mean, if you can believe this, there are multiple caravans, large numbers of humans headed for that southern border, and they're delivering things and talking to contractors who can set up. I think they wanted essentially a FEMA camp in 72 hours. They want to talk to contractors who have the ability to do that sort of thing. And, exactly what they're trying to pull off here is, if that's true, and they're claiming that there are MS-13 and other folks in these caravans, and and then, of course, that's somehow tied to the CalExit situation, which is apparently being promoted and financed by Soros and the Chinese. But I guess what they're trying to do is create a kind of a civil war type situation. What would you say about this? Oh, by the way, you were referenced a number of times during this 24 minutes.
Well, I would expect I would be. Paul Martin is a very dear personal friend. Dave Hodges is a friend, not nearly as close as Paul, but both these gentlemen are friends of mine. We've worked together on different projects for 6-8 years. I don't know how long. So I would expect to be mentioned because I feed. I'm one of the sources for Dave Hodges as well. So that's no surprise that I would be mentioned. Well, this interview apparently took place last night. I have not yet had the opportunity to hear it, and I will make it a point to listen to it, and I may call Paul or Dave or both to get any updates if any are necessary. I've been tracking for a number of years, Rick, the staging of Russians, military, and Chinese People's Republic of China Army in Mexico. My friend Command Sergeant Major Page, who has been on this show a number of times, he got on a Black Hawk helicopter at MacDill Air Force Base in Florida, flew across the Gulf of Mexico, landed at a Russian military base in Mexico. Now, he did this himself, and he's talked about that publicly. Pre-positioning. What the Russians and Chinese have in Mexico is what we did not have in World War II, which was a staging area on the continent. We had our staging area for D-Day was not on the continent of Europe. It was in England, which put 18 miles of the English Channel between us and the continent. What we didn't have to invade Japan was a staging area close enough to pull that off. So having a staging area where you can pre-position your men, your equipment, close proximity without having to cross any water of any consequence.
Right.
The Rio Grande is basically a mud puddle compared to a real river. And
Right.
that's what every general dreams of. And that's what the Russians and Chinese have. So I'll be listening to that report, and I'll be talking to, if I need to talk to Paul or Dave or both, I will talk to them. And I may be in contact with some other private sources to get any updates I can get. And it's since Mexico is a sovereign state, the U.S. is limited what they can do. They can do overflights with satellites and aircraft and monitor this activity, which I have no doubt they're doing. But until hostiles cross the border, the U.S. is limited what they can do.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, there was also reference to some weird deal, and I forget the name of this agreement that Obama signed just minutes before he left office. But essentially, it gave the UN permission to show up here at their own behest anytime there's any kind of a disturbance of any kind, whether it could be a pandemic or anything. They don't need United States permission to pop in here. So it is opined that where there are these gigantic groups of Russians here in the country and Chinese, that they will simply flip on some blue helmets, and they'll be pre-positioned and ready to go. So,
right.
So I'm kind of wondering about the credibility of or what, it's hard for me to believe that you can do a Red Dawn thing for real. I mean, it might make an interesting movie, but it's just impossible to believe anybody could actually successfully invade this country. I don't care what they pre-position, but maybe I'm wrong.
Well, you could all the active duty combat troops inside the United States right now would fit inside a college football stadium with probably some seats left over. Every one of them. A good-sized college football stadium can hold 80,000 people. That's to protect the entire country. Now, when I'm talking combat troops, which is for the Army, it's about 20% are combat troops. That's optimistic.
Right.
For the Air Force, it's maybe 2 or 3%. For the Navy, maybe 20%, maybe. The Marines are the big exception, of course, where they get their logistical support from the Navy. So the Marines are probably 80% combat troops. But all those troops together, the ones that are stationed in CONUS, continental United States, would not fill up a college football stadium.
Well, I was actually wondering. You also have people like you and me who have terrible attitudes, especially with respect to this kind of thing, and would cast a very jaundiced eye at this kind of activity. And I don't know how many of those there are.
Well, there's millions of men who have a bad attitude, as you say, both veterans of the military and civilians who have acquired training and equipment. But the way to compromise most people in this country, including all those people, would be a nationwide EMP attack.
Sure.
I'm going to be, if we have one, I'm going to be focused on taking care of my daughter and my grandchildren. I'm not going to be focused on what was going on with the communist Chinese in St. Louis or Washington, D.C. or any place else. I'm going to be focused on making sure my family is safe. So
I'm sure you'll be plenty busy there. Yeah.
Of course. That's a given.
Yeah.
That's a
That
given.
would be a given. Right. Well, all right. I'm just kind of wondering if there's any credibility to this, and how they expect to run across the border and invade. It just seems insane.
Well, there's other nuances to this, and I started reporting on this 6 or 7 years ago.
Right.
Much of the technology inside our high-performance jet aircraft has come from communist China in terms of electronic circuitry, computers, onboard computers. There's a belief backed up by evidence that why wouldn't the communist Chinese develop a way while they were making these computers for the F-15s, F-35s, F-16s, whatever they might be, to allow them to remotely compromise the performance of that jet aircraft.
Well, to make matters a smidge worse, it was also mentioned in this 24 minutes that our grid technology, the computers, and all that kind of software that basically keeps the grid up is Chinese. So maybe there's a backdoor there too. I don't know. Well,
I would be shocked if there's not a backdoor.
Me too. I would be shocked.
They have a goal. The communist Chinese, they know the 21st century is their century. Communist Chinese have been promising American wives to these lonely soldiers in their army. Everything's in place. These free trade zones that are set up, the closest one to you and I, Rick, I believe is in Metro Kansas City area. That's Chinese sovereign territory, the part of that free trade zone that they own and control. We don't know who they have there. Are they military people? Are they bona fide business people there for a legitimate reason? Are they military people pretending to be business people? We don't know who's there. It's their sovereign territory that we can't enter.
That's fascinating. That's fascinating revelation for me. Well, I can tell you, I have one of those American wives, and I recommend it. So I can understand where they're going with that. Well, okay. Thanks a million. If you hear anything interesting, let us know, will you?
Absolutely, Rick. Absolutely. Thanks for the call. We appreciate it.
Okay.
Okay, the call number is 800-313-9443. We've got a break coming up here shortly. Getting back to preparedness. Hopefully, during a long-term crisis, it'll be 100% routine. That would be ideal, wouldn't it? Here's our break. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. Ladies and gentlemen, J.R. Moore here. It's taken 3 years before I could offer the inter-shelter domes for sale. During those 3 years, several different governments and militaries were taking all their production. The inter-shelter dome homes may be just what you've been looking for to provide affordable, energy-efficient, permanent, and attractive housing. These dome homes are prefabricated units that can be assembled in a few hours by 2 men with a ladder and simple hand tools. Check out the photos of these dome homes built in the Arctic, on tropical beaches, in suburban areas, and in forests. All the details, many photographs, and the pricing of the dome homes are listed on the left-hand side of my homepage at thelibertyman.com. I think you'll find these homes are not only attractive, but they're energy efficient, and a bonus. You can disassemble them and reassemble them as many times as you feel you need to. Pretty great, huh? Something that's very, very unique. Check them out at my website at thelibertyman.com. Okay, we are back, ladies and gentlemen. We're back. J.R. Moore here on Thursday, the 3rd day of May. Before we get to the next caller, my website focuses a lot in terms of articles that I have and items I have for sale on that 1%. Given my bio, my background, that's kind of expected. My friend Tim Spencer, his focus is on the 99%. His website, ruralsurvival.info. Between the two of us, you get a fairly complete package, I think. You really do. We have a caller on hold here. We got Hendricks in Mississippi. Good morning, Hendricks.
Good morning. How you doing, John?
Really good, sir. What's on your mind?
Hey, talking about the Chinese and the Russians and all them. The other thing you take into consideration, I know you know this and others out there, we got a lot of armed citizens, but they're not very well organized, as you well know. That's the other dilemma.
Well, we don't want them organized above the county level. Sure. That creates a tempting target. I want to see that organization at the township level and at the county level, and some at the state level. We need some, especially before the event, some coordination. And many states are now putting their militias back into service back the way. By the way, I know Missouri's doing so under the leadership of the governor. But you don't want too much centralized leadership. Go ahead, Hendricks.
Well, yeah, and I understand that, but still, you got a lot of the bubble effect. You know what I'm talking about.
Oh yeah.
And the other thing I've noticed for years is, in my observation, especially in smaller towns throughout the South and here in Mississippi, there seems to be a Chinese restaurant almost someplace you would think, well, why is there one in this location? If you follow what I'm saying.
Right.
They're always owned and ran by these young, what I call military-age individuals.
Well,
so I think they've been pre-positioning in places you wouldn't even think about.
There's some of that. Now, you may not be aware of the following, Hendricks, but many of those Chinese restaurants are run by South Koreans and Vietnamese. They're not even run by Chinese people. But most Americans can't.
I know of several here in South Mississippi, in some of the small towns that are run by, indeed owned and operated by Chinese themselves.
Well,
that may be true.
I don't doubt that, but most Americans can't tell the difference.
Well, yeah, I know. We got a Japanese restaurant that is run by Chinese. So.
Okay.
But anyway, that's just my thoughts. That I know that you're right. That various states are bringing more control back to their National Guard, i.e., state militias, but still also...
Well, these governors have no choice, Hendricks. Here's what's been going on. We've had continuous war now for 17 years, and these National Guards from the 50 states are used up and worn out, and the governors no longer have control over them. So the governors need a group of men and women who are trained and equipped to deal with floods and earthquakes and tornadoes and hurricanes that they have control over without the federal government being able to take them away. That's why these militias are being put back into service.
Yeah, I heard a little unit just to redeploy themselves back to the Middle East. So I understand what you're saying. Well, I appreciate your time as always. And
thank you.
I like so many of us is concerned about what's going on, in the south over on our border, and of course throughout the country. And always we appreciate your input and giving us updates on these situations, as Rick was saying there in Missouri. God bless. Thank you, Have a good day. God bless.
Appreciate it, sir. Appreciate the call. I love Mississippi. I've been down there twice in the last year. Had a speaking engagement in Hattiesburg. Got to spend some time down at Gulfport just before the big hurricane came across. And we had a lot of Florida refugees taking refuge in the hotel that I was staying at in Gulfport. Beautiful state. Lovely people. But they're welcome to the fire ants. I don't want anything to do with fire ants. I got the bottom of the hour break coming up here shortly. Tom Berryhill will be with us. We'll talk for about 24 minutes about our favorite product, the energy cleaner. I've been working with Tim Spencer. He's got the YouTube archives back up and running. He's had computer issues since the first week of April. They're not completely resolved, but he's limping along, no pun intended, Tim, limping along with the computer he's put together and getting things done. Tim's a very resourceful guy, and he makes things work. But yes, hopefully your hobby farm will be 100% peaceful with no issues. That would be my hope and my prayer for you and your family. That would be ideal, wouldn't it? But as the old saying goes, you hope and pray for the best and you prepare for the worst. And you would be negligent not to prepare for the worst. Here's our break. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
You are tuned in to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Visit our website by going to republicbroadcasting.org.
Ladies and gentlemen, J.R. Moore here. We're continuing our Energy Cleaner promotion, which began August of 2016. In this promotion, you get to buy an Energy Cleaner, $70 off retail, and a mattress pad, 10% off retail. $200 of the purchase price of the Energy Cleaner goes to Republic Broadcasting. This is a great way to help get energy cleaners out to people who need them and have some financial issues to deal with. And, of course, a great way to support Republic Broadcasting. Here's what you do. Send in a postcard. My address is John Moore, P.O. Box 201, Davidsville, Missouri. We pick a postcard every 2 weeks. If your postcard is drawn, you get the chance to buy the Energy Cleaner, $70 off retail, and 10% off the mattress pads. Put your name and your address, your telephone number, and your email address on the postcard, and we wish you the best of luck. Thank you. We are back, ladies and gentlemen. We're back. J.R. Moore here on Thursday, the 3rd day of May. The year is quickly getting by here. Well, this is 24 minutes I look forward to every week. We spend 24 minutes to talk about my favorite product that I use every night, that my wife uses every night, that many of my best friends use every night. That's called the Energy Cleaner. And we begin these conversations with my friend Tom Berryhill, the manufacturer of the Energy Cleaner, giving us our disclaimer. Good morning, Tom.
Hi, John. Good morning. I use it every night, too. Anyway, we are not doctors or medical professionals. We don't diagnose, treat, or cure any illness or disease. The information discussed today is for your education and entertainment only. If you have a medical condition requiring treatment, you should utilize the services of a medical doctor, chiropractor, or other competent practitioner.
Thank you, sir. Speaking of medical doctors, I'm now working with a medical doctor. He's been a regular listener for quite a few years here. He personally owns 4 Energy Cleaners, and he's now made the decision, he's bitten the bullet, so to speak, to go ahead and incorporate the Energy Cleaner into his professional practice. And he's taking delivery of this first units for that purpose here shortly. And he's looking forward to the patients he works with getting relief because of the Energy Cleaner and getting their lives back, such the same as Tim Spencer has, and Steve Whitman, and countless hundreds of other people that have gotten their lives back due to the Energy Cleaner. It's going to be a fun project working with this doctor. I'm looking forward to it and getting reports back from the patients that he's working with. There's another medical doctor up in Chicago. He has his patients buying energy cleaners from me, Tom, and here's the offer he makes his patients. He tells them, if your energy cleaner doesn't work for you, I'll buy it back from you. And that's his offer to his patients. And that's highly unusual for a medical doctor to offer any kind of money-back guarantee on anything they do, isn't it, Tom?
Well, that would be a very unique situation, John, because if you visit any doctor and there's issues with the medication or the ongoing treatment, you'll usually hear them say something like, that didn't work so good. Let's try this. Here's a new drug that we're working with. Let's try this and see how that works.
You mean instead of saying, "Oh, I'm going to refund all the money you spent on this thing that didn't work"?
Oh yeah, no, they'll never say that. Let's just throw some more money at me and let's try. They never say this will work. No, let's give this a try and see how this works for you. That's usually where they go.
That surgery we did on your elbow didn't work, so I'm going to refund that $2,000.
Yeah. Let's cut back in that elbow and try something else. They'll open that wound again. May as well just rub some salt in it while they're at it. John, there was I had one customer purchase an energy cleaner because it was by a doctor's prescription. The doctor, when you mentioned that starting the segment of your show, it reminded me of that situation.
Well, that would open up the door for a potential reimbursement by an insurance company with that prescription being
exactly. Well, that's happened. That's happened several times where doctors actually prescribed it, but I know for sure in one case the insurance company actually paid for it, and everything else that was needed to get it set up, they took care of that and paid for it 100%. So these medical doctors are opening up to this type of technology, and they are taking notice, especially when everything they've been trying doesn't work for the patient, and then maybe the patient gets an energy cleaner and they have success. Well, the doctor starts taking notice of that, and they certainly want to help the patient. They really do, but sometimes their hands are tied. They can only work with pharmaceutical products. So we offer another way to ease pain and allow people to get better sleep, and also many other things are also taken care of. People have to read between the lines because we really aren't at liberty to talk about some of those things here in this country.
Unfortunately. Right. I know. Well, it's springtime. I just looked at one of my neighbor's yards this morning, and it's a brilliant, lush green. We just got a good rain overnight. Gardening is underway. We're now past the part of the year where freezing can cause any harm to the garden. And that brings up the use of the energy cleaner for gardening, doesn't it, Tom?
Yeah, that's right, John. And it's so simple to do. If you have seedlings that you're getting started, you can roll out some chicken wire on a bench or a table, or even aluminum foil works quite well. Tape down the edges. Just secure it underneath where the seedlings are placed, and connect the output wire from the energy cleaner onto that foil, chicken wire, aluminum screen wire. Anything like that will work. Anything electrically conductive will work quite well, and that will get the seedlings started. They'll grow in many cases twice as fast. And you have to, as Tim Spencer found out several years ago, you have to have the ground ready to accept those seedlings because they are going to sprout really fast and grow quite rapidly. You have to get them in the ground quick. You'll be caught off guard if you're not prepared. And then once the plants are in the garden, it's real simple to get some fence posts. Any farm supply store will have these items, fence posts and electric fence insulators, some chicken wire, and you can suspend that chicken wire over the plant bed and connect the energy cleaner onto the chicken wire. Any place is okay. You don't have to be in a corner or any particular side. It's really not critical. Just clip onto that chicken wire and keep it right over the top of the plants. Get it as close to the plants as you can. Of course, you don't want the plants growing up into it and getting trapped in that chicken wire. So you'll have to keep raising it as the plants grow taller. But it works quite well, and you'll see some rapid growth and really superior production of vegetables if that's what you're after. Your friends and neighbors will really take notice, and you'll have a really plentiful crop.
Absolutely. Well, the thing to do is to protect the energy cleaner from moisture with a Ziploc bag, perhaps only 2 Ziploc bags. And, of course, if you're on a strict budget, you could take the energy cleaner from your bedroom, place it outside during the daylight hours, then bring it back inside to use on your bed at night. So get double use out of it in that manner. And once you get tired of carrying back and forth, you may want to go ahead and buy a second one, depending on the situation, because inevitably you'll forget to take it to the garden or forget to bring it back to the bed. With busy lives, it's almost inevitable, isn't it, Tom?
Yeah, that's exactly what happens. And John, in the greenhouses, several commercial greenhouses use this. It works really good. You stretch some stainless steel welding wire through the plant beds, through the media that the plants grow in, and as the nutrients flow through there. And I've seen several of these greenhouses. They all do it in a different way, but it's basically the same approach. You just have to get that wire down in the troughs and the media that the plants grow in. And as the nutrients flow through that liquid, of course, is conductive, and that allows the signal to radiate quite well in that wire. And then what they do is several of these guys, they've actually wrapped the energy cleaner in polyethylene sheet and like a shrink wrap type of material, and they just wrap it real good, and then they hang it up on one of the support poles in the greenhouse, and the wire just comes out the bottom. So any moisture that gets on there in case they're spraying the plants or anything, that runs downhill and doesn't get into the energy cleaner and cause any problems. It works quite well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, here's what we're talking about, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, it's a healing device. That's what it is. I'll tell you what it's not. It's not a Rife machine. It's not a TENS unit. So let's forget those two things. Entirely different technology. About the size of a cigar box. Takes 9 D as in Delta, 9 D-cell batteries. No on-off switch, no gauges, no dials. It's on 24/7 once the batteries are installed. And it does, in fact, take 9 D as in Delta, 9 D-cell batteries. There's one place to plug in one plug. There's one LED light. That LED light alternately flashes red or green, telling you two things. First of all, it's working. Second of all, it's changing polarity. That one place to plug in that one wire, well, you can plug in the factory-made fitted mattress pads that I also sell. They're very comfortable. They're washable. It's a great combination. Or you can plug in the wire that comes with it with an alligator clip on the other end, and you can make your own pad out of aluminum screen wire. Or you can use the bathtub/hot tub method, which we highly recommend. If you take your bathtub, fill up the tub with comfortably warm water, attach a metal spoon, because it has no sharp edges, drop that spoon in the water, keep the energy cleaner dry away from the water, and just sit in that tub until it starts cooling down, or keep adding warm water. Spend up to an hour in there if you like. Hot tub, basically the same thing, except you turn the temperature down to 98 degrees, and you spend an hour in there at a time. If you got a really chronic situation, you may want to do an hour in the morning and an hour in the afternoon. That gives you total immersion in that signal. The healing signal from the energy cleaner goes to every cell in your body, flushing out toxins, bringing in fresh nutrition, and we focus on two things: pain mitigation and getting a great night's sleep. Pain mitigation, it could be arthritis pain, joint pain, back pain. It doesn't matter what the source of the pain is. You will most likely get relief. And you're sitting there wondering, boy, John, that sounds great. I wonder if it'd work for me. $285, that's a lot of money for me. Well, here's the rest of the deal. A 90-day money-back guarantee. How about that? A 90-day money-back guarantee. So you're risking nothing when you get your energy cleaner. So what are you waiting for? You're tired of being tired? Tired of having to deal with pain, chronic pain all the time? You can get the details at my website at thelibertyman.com. Read up on the patent application information. You'll learn about things like Carillion photography, for example. And you can also read the excellent testimonials at my website as well. You can place your order there at my website using PayPal. PayPal is marvelous. I really like PayPal. It's the most secure way to make any payment online. PayPal, by the way, now takes payments if you live in the United States. MasterCard, Visa. If you need to send me a check or money order, my address is right there at my website at thelibertyman.com. Plus, I have a toll-free order line 24 hours a day. Orders only, please. Here it is, twice slowly, 800-592-9543. I say again, 800-592-9543. Tom, I've done everything I can to make getting an energy cleaner just as easy as I can, haven't I, sir?
You really have, John. Initially, they were sold, and people took delivery and put them to use. Then you had a 30-day money-back guarantee. That helped people to make a decision. They could try for 30 days, and now the 90-day money-back guarantee. Somebody that wants to try this out is going to know pretty quick if it works for them or not. And we've only seen a handful of people where it doesn't. And, John, we just don't know why. But some people don't respond to the signal, and nobody really seems to know exactly why. But in almost every case, it works, and people get relief, and various other helpful things happen as well. So it's a tiny percentage, Tom. I'm selling 400 to 500 of these units a year. I get back about one a quarter. That's less than 1%. It's a tiny percentage, and I always wonder, did they actually use it? Well, I agree with that, John. You wonder if they ever really used it. But then I do know several cases where the people did use the energy cleaner, and they really tried, and it just didn't help them. I remember Lee Kroc, who was the original inventor of this technology. He told me that he had run into several people that he called energy dead. He said they were alive and breathing, but they were dead. They had no energy flow, nothing. And, you mentioned that camera, that special Carillion photography unit that he had, and they would check these people out with that camera, and there was just almost no aura. There was their electrical system in their body was just worn out or dead, and nobody really knew what to do for them. Although we all did try, it just didn't work for them. So that's a very small percentage. Right. And I wish we had the answer for those situations, but we just don't at this time.
Well, that's unfortunate, but we it's such a tiny percentage of people that they have to make their own arrangements to get their health back. They may not be healthy enough to use the energy cleaner yet. It's hard to say. But for 99% of the population, the energy cleaner does in fact work. It's a huge percentage of Americans. I would say it's conservatively well more than half of all American adults have issues with either sleep or pain or both. Back pain, arthritis pain is very common among American adults. Not sleeping properly or sleeping hardly at all is another common problem for American adults. We're surrounded by this toxic environment. People are taking these harmful, expensive pharmaceutical products which have harmful side effects. Energy cleaner can't have harmful side effects, can it, Tom?
No, it really can't. It's a very gentle signal, and it's the purest form of energy, John. It's DC energy. There's no frequencies or anything like that involved, and it's just a very gentle approach. And I've always described it as a set of jumper cables for every cell in your body. If there's a cell that's sluggish, getting weak, needs help, the energy cleaner will help it. And every cell is like a pump. Once it starts pushing out the toxic waste material and pulling in fresh nutrients, it will start working again, and your body will respond to that. So that's basically what we do. And so many times cells will die and putrefy and cause tumors and other bad things like that. So the energy cleaner helps to flush all of that out. And then we've seen broken bones heal really fast. I mean, really fast, using the energy cleaner. So that's an added benefit to using this. And if you have had any surgical incisions lately, if you put the energy cleaner on that surgical wound, as soon as you get home from that hospital, it will heal really fast.
Absolutely.
The amazement of the doctors.
Hold on, Tom. Hold on. We got a break.
Story.
We'll be right back. We'll be right back. Stay tuned, everybody. Okay, we are back, ladies and gentlemen. We're back. J.R. Moore here on Thursday, the third day of May. Well, Tom, we're already have 1/3 of the year finished, and we're moving forward. It's springtime. People are getting more active after having been somewhat sedentary during the winter for most people, and it's time to get that energy cleaner to help with the aches and pains of overdoing it, and people overdo it. Getting out there, walking, hiking, bicycling, canoeing, whatever their activities are. And that's where the energy cleaner really shines, doesn't it, Tom?
Yeah, it really does, John. And people are working in their yards now and cutting the grass and maintenance on the house and so on. So they're going to have some soreness at the end of that long day, and that energy cleaner will help with that quite a bit. And, of course, a lot of people are planning vacations and traveling, and they can take that energy cleaner along, use that small pad that you offer, and put that in the car and take it along with you on a long trip. You'll be refreshed at the end of that long trip, and it's like you never even did the driving.
Absolutely. Well, that's what I do, and I really don't like to fly commercial. I still enjoy flying private aircraft and charter aircraft, but I really don't like flying commercial, so I make these road trips myself. I put the pad, the engine cleaner on the seat of the car, and I'll tell you, Tom, I can knock out 10 hours, and it doesn't feel much different than driving, say 4 hours or so. I still feel relatively fresh, relatively ready to go. I know when it's time to call it a day, but I don't have that dead dog, just beat up, overtired feeling that most people would have most of the time after driving 10 hours on the interstate highway. And that's because of the energy cleaner. And of course, I take a 10-minute break every 2 hours of driving, and I use audiobooks. Audiobooks make the miles melt away, but they all combine together with the energy cleaner to have a comfortable trip for these road trips. If you're planning road trips, get yourself an energy cleaner. You need a small pad that I offer to go on the seat of the vehicle. You can configure two of them together so the passenger also has a small pad, by the way. I just bring the small pad into the hotel at night and put it on the bed, and I use the metal spoon, of course, to get if I want to get in the tub with it, and I'm good to go the next morning, refreshed and relaxed and ready to hit it again. Pretty neat, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is, John. It works great, and so many over-the-road truck drivers have told us how well this works for them. And I remember one guy telling me once, he said, if it wasn't for these rules and regulations where we have to take planned breaks, at regular intervals, he said, I could just keep rolling all the way through the day and really put in some long hours and make more money. But he said that we're just not allowed to do all that. So But he said it's really great for the guys driving those big rigs. They really like that energy cleaner.
Tom, thank you, sir. We'll have you
John.
on tomorrow morning. We'll talk about emergency communications. Okay.
Hey, John. Thank you.
Thank you. Top of the hour break. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. All right, we're back, ladies and gentlemen. J.R. Moore here, our second hour on Thursday, the 3rd day of May. We'll have open lines this hour. Proper tip of the day. You gentlemen, you want to be a hero for the ladies in your life, here's what you do. You stock up on feminine hygiene products and birth control products. You keep in mind these girls will become women before you know it, so stock up extra stuff for them as well. And that's a very important thing that men typically don't think about, by the way, and women may not think about until, well, it's too late to get what they need. So take the bull by the horn, so to speak, and stock up ahead of time. Buy these things in case lots, and you save some money that way. The call number is 800-313-9443. We're going to talk about preparedness, what it really is. What it really is. I give a very short summary at my website at thelibertyman.com, where it says Field Training Exercise, USS Liberty, December 31st, 2018. A short summary, but an important one, enough to get you started. If you're new to this, it's enough to get you started. I gave it this name just to help people remember when a U.S. Navy warship was attacked by the Israeli Air Force during the Six-Day War in June of 1967. So that's why I named it that name. Well, I list, first of all, I go on to list 5 different scenarios. I'm not, the numbering of them really has no relevance to anything one way or the other in terms of importance or possibility of happening. I had to list them somehow, and this is how it worked out. The first one I list is economic collapse leading to civil disorder. Now, we have what's called fiat, like the automobile, F-I-A-T, fiat money system. We have had since the mid-1960s, when they took the silver out of our coinage and they no longer made the paper currency redeemable in silver. There was no exception throughout 5,000 years of recorded history of fiat currency not collapsing. That's always been the case. Always, always, always. Number 2, World War III. We had a discussion of that briefly last hour about the potential for a Red Dawn scenario. Number 3, rapid onset violent earth changes. This is something I know more about than most people. And it will happen in the future. I can't say exactly when. I can say it will, according to the best scientists we have that talk privately to our government officials. Number 4, widespread terrorist attacks. Well, right now they're occasional, but they could kick in to where they become a daily event in this country and others. And last but not least, natural or man-made EMP, electromagnetic pulse. Now, don't believe that just because one happens that the other 4 can't happen. We could have 2 or even 3 of these things all taking place at the same time. No reason why not. And I go on to give my advice. Number 1, this is the most important thing you can do, above and beyond anything else. Number 1, get your spiritual house in order. Now, as a radio talk show host, it's not my place to tell you what your spiritual beliefs should be. Far from it. I don't pretend to do that. I hope you would look into becoming a born-again Christian, but that's your choice. I respect that. I do know that people who don't have a strong spiritual foundation going into a crisis have a dramatically less chance of surviving that crisis. We know that from the journals, the biographies, the autobiographies of people who survived the prison camps in World War II as prisoners of war and internees. That's internees, not attorneys, internees. That the ones who went into those prison situations were far more likely to survive if they had a strong spiritual foundation going into them. So do what you need to do to make that happen. Hopefully it'll become a lifelong quest. Number 2, acquires the skills you'll need. I focus on hobby farms. There's dozens, literally dozens, of skills. The farmers and ranchers I know are very resourceful men and women. And they have skills, they have the equipment, the tools, supplies to put those skills into use. We can come back to that. Number 3, establish and work with your team. Now your team, who's that going to be? Possibly your wife and children. Hopefully the children will be old enough that they can contribute. Even fairly small children can contribute to a certain extent. Possibly siblings, possibly parents, cousins, aunts, uncles, a family-based team. There's nothing wrong with that as long as you get along. The team may include people you go to church with, perhaps people you went to school with, co-workers. It doesn't matter. As long as they're solid men and women who have skills that you can count on, they're trustworthy and so forth. A good number is 10 or 12 adults. At least 6 or 8, I would say, for the following reason. There's 168 hours in a week. And during a crisis, somebody's going to have to be awake all night, every night. Now, even for 6 people, that's burdensome. Once you get to 8, not quite so burdensome. Once you get to 12, you can spread out those night shifts to where people can have a pretty normal life in terms of getting proper rest. There's other reasons, but that's one of the main ones. Number 4, establish your safe haven. Now that's obviously, to me, it's a hobby farm. I don't know what it would be to you. Everybody's going to have their own solution to this. I wouldn't want to live like Omega Man, the original Charlton Heston version of Omega Man, where he takes over an apartment building, I believe in downtown Los Angeles, if I'm not mistaken, and fortifies it. And he's alone, and the loneliness is one of the subplots, is him dealing with his loneliness, and he plays chess with a statue of Caesar across the table from him. And he talks to Caesar as if it was another person. Very lonely existence. You do not want to be in that situation. That's why when a person's incarcerated, punishment is isolation, not being part of the general population. That's punishment when they lock you up by yourself. And I think people in isolation, they get a half hour a day to be out in the yard alone, get a little bit of sunshine, a little vitamin D. Your safe haven, ideally, would be a hobby farm at a good distance from a major metropolitan area, not along main routes of travel. You don't want your hobby farm close to an interstate highway or a major state highway. In my opinion, that's probably not very wise. A good distance where you and your family, your team, have become part of the local community, that you're on a first-name basis with the pastor of the local church, leaders of the community, business owners, school officials, elected officials, and so forth. You've become part of the community. You know the fire chief by their first name, the police chief by their first name. They have the paramedics, and so forth. The local librarian. You know all these people, and they know you. It's very important to be part of that community. Extremely important. How do you get started? Well, I list 4 different things there. These are real simple. first get yourself a spiral notebook, just like you had in high school. Maybe a 100-page spiral notebook that you can make a record of what you plan on doing and what you have done. In that notebook, you make a master list of all your goals. You may be able to do that on one page, possibly. If it takes two, it takes two. Then farther back into the book, you dedicate one full page to each of those goals. And then last but not least, as you move forward, you check off or put a line through each of those goals. I did this. I made my own spiral notebook, I believe, in 1998 in preparation for Y2K. And I spent the next 2 years making a list, checking off things on those lists, adding things to the list, and so forth. It was quite a good. I still have that spiral notebook, by the way. It was a good project, a good training exercise for preparing for Y2K. Now that's a very bare bones outline of how to get prepared. Jim Rawls has a website, and let's see if it's survivalblog.com. Let's see if we can get down here. I'm at the current page here. I try to get there, maybe not quite every day, but close to it. I get to Jim Rawls' website and see what's going on there. He has some excellent writers, and I've learned a lot from Jim Rawls. His first book was published in a shareware format, which I don't know if that's even used anymore these days. Back about 1998 or so. And he's gone on to write several more books. I'm looking through his website here to see where he has his books listed for sale, which, Jim, I'm disappointed you don't have an easy way for people to get to your books. And okay, looking here at what he has. Yeah, I'm a bit disappointed. Jim, you need to have your books easily findable. James Wesley Rawls. Great guy, former intelligence officer, very bright. He's had his hard times. His wife passed away a few years ago. He still has a remembrance for her at his website. But Jim Rawls, let's see, James Wesley, R-A-W-L-E, Rawls, 1L. And here we go. Okay. Patriots, a novel of surviving in the coming collapse. It's been through different editions, updated over the years from the original. This goes back to the shareware in 1998 that he originally came out with. It's often described as a instruction manual disguised as a novel, and that's a fairly good description. An instruction manual disguised as a novel. It's a good read. It really is a good read. And I highly recommend. I recommend all his books. Let's go through all his books real here. How to Survive the End of the World as We Know It is one. And then we've got Tools for Survival. And then Rawls on Retreats and Relocation. Then we've got a bunch of novels. I won't go through the titles of the novels. You can find them yourself. James Wesley Rawls, R-A-W-L-E-S. So another book I recommend is 1 Second After, another novel. The introduction is written by Newt Gingrich. I don't particularly care for Newt and his politics. He's a real hardcore Republican that I found out after the fact. He helped get the assault weapons and high-capacity magazine ban passed in the fall of, I think it was September 1994, because he knew, very bright guy, by the way, he knew that the Democrats voting for that just 2 months before the election would cause them to lose elections. It was the biggest turnover of Democratic seats becoming Republicans since the Civil War. And he supported that in order to accomplish that political goal. Regardless, 1 Second After is an excellent book that will give you a bird's eye view of the possible consequences of EMP. It was a well-written novel. I emphasize well-written, well-researched novel. Is both entertaining and educational. There's a whole genre of probably at this point several hundred books written on EMP survival scenarios. I read those books a lot. The reason I read them is I'm looking to get the author's take, and it's interesting to see the difference between the female authors and the male authors on the human response of people put in these desperate situations. It's always good to look at all the different aspects of human response that there could be and will be. We have 5,000 years of written records of human beings living on this planet. Once you get past 3,000 years, it starts getting a little sketchy, but we know pretty well all the different things that have taken place on this planet for a couple of thousand years plus. It's always good to learn more, I believe. So I do recommend that book also, 1 Second After. Mr. Fortune has written several others as follow-ups, but if you can only read one book to start with, I would start with his novel. And, of course, Jim Rawls' novel also, Patriots and Novels Surviving the Coming Collapse. We've got a break here. To call numbers 800-313-9443. Ladies and gentlemen, J.R. Moore here. It's taken 3 years before I could offer the inter-shelter domes for sale. During those 3 years, several different governments and militaries were taking all their production. The inter-shelter dome homes may be just what you've been looking for to provide affordable, energy-efficient, permanent, and attractive housing. These dome homes are prefabricated units that can be assembled in a few hours by 2 men with a ladder and simple hand tools. Check out the photos of these dome homes built in the Arctic, on tropical beaches, in suburban areas, and in forests. All the details, many photographs, and the pricing of the dome homes are listed on the left-hand side of my homepage at thelibertyman.com. I think you'll find these homes are not only attractive, but they're energy efficient, and a bonus. You can disassemble them and reassemble them as many times as you feel you need the need to. Pretty great, huh? Something that's very, very unique. Check them out at my website at thelibertyman.com. We are back, ladies and gentlemen. J.R. Moore here on Thursday, the third day of May. We got a caller on hold. We got Rose in Virginia. Good morning, Rose.
Good morning, Mr. Moore. It's always nice hearing you. Do you think just now with this situation that the Koreans, apparently they have made it steel. We still cannot rely on that as a final decision, to not to, have a place of safety in this moment.
Well, I wouldn't rely on that as being a long-term situation, Rose. I recall the Joe Stalin and Adolf Hitler smiling and shaking hands when they had their peace agreement not long before a brutal barbaric war broke out between those two countries. So I wouldn't count on that at all, Rose.
Yeah, and we cannot forget about Napoleon, what happened there. He was deceived by the bankers. You understand? It's something that we have to be so careful. Thank you so much. I enjoyed hearing you.
Thanks for the call, Rose. We appreciate it. Call number is 800-313-9443. I say this frequently, but there's nothing you and I can do about what happens with these geopolitical matters. We can observe them. We can educate ourselves about them, stay informed. But all we can do is react. That's all we can do. We can't affect them or change them. I see people getting caught up on whether this event or that event was, in fact, a genuine event or a false flag. Does it really matter? Does it? I don't think so. If the consequences aren't any different, what does it matter? It may be interesting and fascinating to study and find out and so forth, but people get caught up into spending valuable time to determine things that at the end of the day really don't matter. They really don't. So don't do that. Don't take, time is a precious commodity. Don't use up your precious time on things that at the end of the day really don't matter one way or the other. Don't do that. What you need to do is focus on what will help you and your family. Start small. If all you can do is properly clean out 2-liter soda bottles and fill them up with water, then do that. If you can only afford one case of Mountain House food, which is when I was a 25-year-old homicide detective, that's all I could afford to get started to help take care of my wife and infant child. I still have that first case of Mountain House food, by the way. That cardboard case is pretty beat up. It's been moved multiple times the past more than 40 years. But I still have it. It's part of a legacy, I guess you could say, that began when my daughter was born. And I did what I could, given the limited resources I had at that time. I developed a safe haven. At the time, that would have been my grandmother's home, 100 miles from St. Louis. And I had a plan in place to have a safe haven for my wife and daughter, working with the resources I have, what I had at the time. Things change over the years. That's part of life. Things change. You work with what you got. Now, you may have limited resources. You may have extensive resources. Regardless of where you are, take what you got and work with it. If all you can do is buy an extra bag of beans and rice when you're at the supermarket, then buy that extra bag of beans and rice, especially if you can catch them on sale. Most people could afford an inexpensive vacuum packer. They sell these things at Walmart for about $20. Get yourself a roll that you cut off and custom make your own bags. When it comes to beans and rice, storing up food of that nature, you want it in a cool, dark place, cool, dark, and dry. I double bag them. So let's say you got a bag of rice. It comes in a plastic bag. I would, and I do this, by the way. I vacuum pack it in one bag, and then vacuum pack that inside a second vacuum pack bag. I've seen a failure rate of these bags at about 10%. That's a rough estimate of what I've seen. about a 10% failure rate. So if you bag it twice, you reduce that failure possibility dramatically. You want to get carried away and bag it 3 times? Hey, go for it. Whatever floats your boat, as they say. Now, the combination of beans and rice provide almost all vitamins, minerals, essential amino acids, and so forth, with the exception of vitamin C. Now, ascorbic acid is not complete vitamin C. It's better than nothing. But ascorbic acid is not a complete vitamin C. But stock up on vitamin C somehow, some way, and you've got what you need, the basics to keep you alive. Would it be boring? Of course it would be boring. A boring diet. But a boring diet is better than no diet. And if you're clever, if you get a guidebook for wild edibles for your area with full color photographs, don't do this on the cheap with black and white drawings or photographs. You need a book, and you don't want something that's based on electronics. A book with full color photographs of wild edibles and herbs for your area. Here's our break. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
You are tuned in to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Visit our website by going to republicbroadcasting.org.
Ladies and gentlemen, J.R. Moore here. We're continuing our energy cleaner promotion, which began August of 2016. In this promotion, you get to buy an energy cleaner, $70 off retail, and a mattress pad, 10% off retail. $200 of the purchase price of the energy cleaner goes to Republic Broadcasting. This is a great way to help get energy cleaners out to people who need them and have some financial issues to deal with. And, of course, a great way to support Republic Broadcasting. Here's what you do. Send in a postcard. My address is John Moore, P.O. Box 201, Davidsville, Missouri. We pick a postcard every 2 weeks. If your postcard is drawn, you get the chance to buy the energy cleaner, $70 off retail, and 10% off the mattress pads. Put your name and your address, your telephone number, and your email address on the postcard, and we wish you the best of luck. Thank you. Okay, we are back, ladies and gentlemen. We're back. J.R. Moore here on Thursday, the 3rd day of May. The year's quickly flying by here, isn't it? If you're interested in tactical equipment, and I know a lot of you are, at my website at libertyman.com, scroll down the right side, you'll see in bold type there, John's Survival and Tactical Gear. There are several hundred items listed there, and the majority of them, except for maybe 3 or 4, are Amazon items. So you'd be ordering directly from Amazon, not from me. And these are things I personally picked out to be there. I own many of these items or similar items myself. Many of them are things that I would like to own at some point in the future. But I think you'll find it an interesting collection to check out. You'll probably find some things that you don't know even exist, such as equipment that you can buy, that you can put on a hot stove and make electricity with. Isn't that neat? Recharge a battery, make a radio work. Pretty neat. Also, on my website, of course, you'll find energy cleaners for sale. Energy cleaners are healing devices. We spent 24 minutes last hour talking about the energy cleaner. If you have joint pain, arthritis pain, back pain, well, you don't have one and you know about this, well, that means you're procrastinating, doesn't it? You're an energy cleaner procrastinator. What are you waiting for? Don't let the pain take over you and run your life. You take control and run your life with the Energy Cleaner, a marvelous healing device. All the details are at my website, where you can read up on the patent application information. Fascinating way this thing came into being. The great testimonials from people like Steve Whitman. And you can place your order right there at my website at thelibertyman.com for the Energy Cleaner, for the mattress pad to go with it. I use mine every night, by the way. You can use PayPal, a marvelous way to make a payment. It's the safest way to make any payment online. And MasterCard, Visa, American Express, Diners Club. You can send me a check or money order. My address is right there at my website at thelibertyman.com. Or you can place my order, use my toll-free order line. Here it is, twice slowly. Don't try to call me. Order line only, 800-592-9543. I say again, 800-592-9543. We're talking about preparedness at open lines at 800-313-9443. Don't get overwhelmed. One of the local businessmen I was talking to, he runs a store that has, probably 40 employees. It's a lot of responsibility. And he just, once he understood the true nature of what we're dealing with, he just felt overwhelmed. And that's his decision, is to feel overwhelmed. You don't have to feel overwhelmed. I recall during the Tet Offensive, there was an Air Force sergeant lived across the street from our place, had an apartment there, and the second or third day of the Tet Offensive, he committed suicide. All he had to do, when he was alone there in that apartment, I could see where a guy would be fearful of what was going on, death all around us, rocket attacks, mortar attacks, every hour, basically. Of course he'd be scared. All he had to do is walk across the street, and he'd be with about 50 well-armed. We didn't have much ammunition, but we were pretty well-armed. All of us had an M14. A lot of us had other weapons as well. He would have been okay, but he chose to commit suicide. What a tragedy. Don't get overwhelmed. Don't let that happen to yourself. Do what you can do. We all have limitations, don't we? We have physical limitations. We have mental and emotional limitations. We have financial limitations. You work within those limitations. Now, a healthy, strong 20-year-old Marine can't carry 200 pounds up and down hills all day. He has his limitations. A 70-year-old woman can't carry 50 pounds up and down hills all day long. She has limitations. But the healthy Marine can carry 50 pounds up and down hills all day long, and a healthy 70-year-old woman can probably carry 15 or 20 pounds up and down hills all day long. You work within your limitations. You don't anguish over what you cannot do. You don't anguish over what you cannot do. Get this right, John. You take joy in what you can do. So when I was 18 years old, 20, 21, I was on the track team at Fort Bragg, North Carolina. I could run 100 yards in about 10 seconds, maybe less. I can't do that anymore as a 70-year-old. I don't anguish over that. I take joy in what I can do. Running 100 meters in maybe, 15.7, 16 seconds, somewhere in there. I take joy in what I can do. I don't anguish in what I can no longer do. That's a healthy way to look at life. It really is. Well, we got the calls all at once here. Let's get to them one at a time. First, we have Mike in Kentucky. Morning, Mike.
Did I hear you say you're 70?
Yes, sir.
Oh, well,
70.
You put me to shame. I'm trying to train a 11, 12-year-old for a scouting merit badge, and I did a 17-second 100-yard dash last year, but he can't do that. So the sedentary lifestyles with the technology is going to kill the next generation. They're losing their fine motor skills in their hands. It's a national security issue, if you ask me.
Well, you've covered a lot of territory in a short span there. My wife, Dr. Moore, she noticed within 24 hours of our grandson getting this combination of injections they give, immunizations. Was it measles, mumps, rubella? Within 24 hours, a dramatic, noticeable degradation of his handwriting skills.
Golly.
I know.
Well, there's a book out. I'm not plugging it. Don't have a dog in the hunt, but there's a book out called "What Your Doctor Will Not Tell You About Vaccines," and there's strategies in there. If you're cornered and have to take them, you can do things like put tea bags on the shot sites. You can preload with fish oil and vitamin C and some other strategies that guy gives in his book for diminishing the oxidative stress that is caused by these shots. But that's not why I called. As I was on hold, you mentioned your being able to do that fast on 100 yards, and I'm like, golly, you're putting me to shame, and you got 20 years on me. I need to get on the stick. Mike, I was, in the state outdoor track meet in 1966. I was the 18th fastest in the state and the second fastest Caucasian. So I've been doing this a long time. Well, use it or lose it. I've had too many fly on the desk job, sedentary 8-hour days.
Understood.
I try to get up. I sit on the exercise ball. There's several strategies, stand-up desks, use a stool instead of a chair. I mean, there's all kinds of things, but you're fighting a losing battle if you do that. You got to get out and move. There's no substitute for movement.
There is
supplement. Well, the health ranger, I think, is newsworthy again on his acoustic analysis. Did you catch the Las Vegas police, Metro Police, I think, went all the way to Nevada Supreme Court and lost, trying to get the body camera video suppressed. That is crucial to be able to triangulate where the second shooter was, be it on top of another building at only 250 yards or whatever the feet was. I think he says 250 feet or 450-some feet to the Mandalay Bay. There was a dirt mound construction site where it would have been very easy for somebody to stash their equipment and be camouflaged, and the angle would be pretty shallow, and that would satisfy that distance. But now that these body cameras are going to have to be released, I think we could use that evidence, if anybody's good, to triangulate where the second shooter was, given known cartridges and rounds that were found at the scene, unless they can show other ammo that would, goof up that math. He's saying it's like 250 yards versus 425 yards based on the acoustic evidence. So everybody needs to go watch that video again, because right after he put it out, his whole YouTube was pulled down.
Really? Well,
he lost it.
Mike Adams does some great work, and I encourage people to follow his work also.
Well, I just thought it would be newsworthy. I didn't know if you'd covered it this morning, but they lost their battle to keep that suppressed from the public. So,
well, hopefully when we see that, we'll get some more evidence.
Somebody out there should do it. And anybody that had if anybody sees online people that said that their tablets, laptops, or phones were confiscated and returned without the files from that evening. There were some people that claimed they lost all of their recordings or files from the evening from their devices that were handed into the police. They need to get together and do a class action or something to get that evidence back, because they kept it, even though they didn't let them have it.
Of course they did.
Yeah.
That's a given.
Well, and
Mike, thank you for the call.
If that's screwed up, then what about the Florida shootings, Pulse nightclub and all the rest of it? Talk to you later.
Okay. Thanks, sir. Appreciate the call. Next, we go to Cindy in Indiana. Good morning, Cindy. Cindy, you're on the air. Go ahead.
Hi. I have 3 quick questions in reference to your wisdom and experience. Number 1, during these times ahead, is there a particular state in the United States that perhaps may be a safer location? Number 2, would you advise someone to go ahead and get, like, say, for example, a motorhome especially if they have several different certifications for the American Red Cross, to be able to move locations. And the third question I had, maybe I should wait till another time, but how soon do you think, or I know you can't predict, the financial collapse in this country?
Okay.
Thank you very much for all your information and work. Have a blessed day.
Thank you, Cindy. Well, Cindy, I know you're still listening. My phone number is at my website at thelibertyman.com. You ask some complex questions. They're going to have complex answers that can't possibly be covered in the 10 minutes left in this show, minus the commercials. A safe place depends on what your concerns are. You're concerned about violent earth changes. You're concerned about civil disorder, and so forth. I think the Arkansas, Missouri Ozarks meets most of that criterion. There's an area in the extreme northwest part of the country known as the American Redoubt, which has some good things going, especially if you don't mind brutal winters. Financial collapse? Well, I'm no economist. It'll be planned and contrived in advance. I do know that. It'd be Tuesday morning, first hour would be a good time to call back, Cindy, maybe have a more comprehensive discussion of this. Our next caller is Jerry in Texas. Good morning, Jerry.
Morning. Hello?
Yes, sir.
I'm outside. I don't know, the wind may be interfering with my conversation. So far as financial collapse, I think we're already there. We just don't know it. But in preparedness, everybody that has a roof over their head should consider putting up rain gutters and some kind of water storage. It's amazing how much water that you can collect in 1 inch of rain. People say, well, I can't afford a big expensive tank. Go to your Walmart or Sam's or somewhere and get a little swimming pool, 4 foot deep, maybe 12 foot in diameter. Do the calculations on that, and you'll be amazed how much water you can collect in 1 inch of rain. Gravity feed it, and you're done. Maybe get a few tablets of chlorine to help control the algae and what have you. You may have to go out there and dip it out of the pool, take it in the house and boil it and take a bath, but, at least you got water, and it's rather inexpensive. Next book that I'd recommend is Lights Out by Crawford is his last name. I don't remember his first name. Dealing with EMP and being unprepared. It's kind of like 1 second after.
I've read Lights Out. It's a good book.
Anyway, that's basically all that I wanted to throw in this morning. So far as preparedness, get you some kind of rainwater collection. It don't have to be elaborate. Relatively simple, and at least you've got water, and that's very important. John, have a good day.
Jerry, are you in West Texas by any chance?
Well, I'm about 120 miles northwest of Austin.
Okay.
Edge of the hill country.
Okay.
Average rainfall is about 20, 25 inches a year, if we're lucky.
Right.
But I have lived in West Texas, out in the Big Bend area. And contrary to what most people believe, the average rainfall out there is about 12 inches a year. The biggest problem, it only comes in about a 3-month span. So you got to be prepared and have quite a bit of storage capability to capture and hold all the water that comes down.
Right. Well, when people live in those areas that have rainfall issues, that's certainly good advice, Jerry. We appreciate it.
Well, there's a lot of areas where I live, John, that I know I've got neighbors out here with several hundred acres that has drilled as many as 20 wells before they ever got water. And I'm talking about going 400 to 500 feet deep.
Right.
And when you get down that deep, you lose your power if you're dependent on a electric pump. You get up the proverbial creek.
Right.
But
right.
So something to get thought about.
It is. It is.
Thank you,
Well,
John.
Jerry, my 50 by 50 foot swimming pool, I can fill up every 6 hours.
Okay. Yeah. Well, we've been known. I've got the roof area on my house. Well, it's 48 by 70.
Right.
And I can never remember how many square feet. But 1 inch of rain will give me about 3,000, between 3,000 and 4,000 gallons of water. 1 inch of rainfall.
There you go. That's a lot of water.
Rule of thumb is, well, first of all, there's 231 cubic inches in a gallon of water.
Jerry, we got
So
a
you
break here.
take
You want to
that-
hold on to the break?
Okay.
You want to hold on to
Sure.
the break? We got a break. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. Okay, we are back, ladies and gentlemen. Jerry Moore here on Thursday, the 3rd day of May. Jerry, are you torturing that duck in the background? What's going on?
That's not a duck. That's I've got a couple of twin kid goats.
Oh, okay.
That's about 4 or 5 days old. We got thunderstorms coming, and their mama wants to keep them out in the pasture, so I just went looking for them and got them, and I'm taking them with barn.
All right.
But,
Well, good for you.
On the water situation, just a simple rule of thumb: 1 inch of rain on a 10 by 10 area or 100 square feet will yield you 60 gallons of water.
There you go.
So, person, I just about collect water out of the bed of a pickup truck and fill up 2 or 3 55-gallon drums.
Yep. There's lots of ways to do this. You just have to be resourceful and a bit creative, don't you?
Don't make it complicated.
Right.
My last name is Simons, and I tell people it's Simple Simons. So
There we go.
Hey,
Jerry,
I
we
ask you
appreciate
to
your
keep
call.
it simple.
Don't be a stranger.
Hey, all right. Well, you have a good day.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have fun with those goats. Okay. Where else can you get a radio show where there's goats in the background except the John Moore Show? I'm not aware of any other place that can happen. It was an interesting 2 hours this morning, I have to say. Some great calls, as always. And tomorrow we'll have Tom Berryhill. We'll be talking about emergency survival communications. In the second hour, Dr. Myers will be talking about health-related matters. There's lots to this. It doesn't need to be complex. It really doesn't. But the main thing is to educate yourself, inform yourself, then move forward and take action, isn't it? That's what you need to be doing. Make it a priority that you're going to take action yourself for preparedness, for your personal health, your physical conditioning. We had Mike in Kentucky talking about him being in better condition than a preteen, like a 12-year-old. He said something's not right there. That's the 12-year-old should outperform the 50-year-old. But things are upside down and backwards, aren't they? An amazing time we live in, to say the least. A truly amazing time. We all move forward together. We all learn from each other. We all educate each other and help take care of each other. That's the way it should be. This is talk radio at its best, isn't it? Get started. If you haven't started preparedness, get started. If you're already going, well, just keep moving forward and bring somebody along with you. I know many of you have a reluctant spouse who doesn't want to hear about it, but move forward anyway. Reach a compromise with that reluctant spouse. That reluctant spouse who doesn't want to spend family resources, time, and money on preparedness. Move forward anyway. Do what you can do within the limitations that you have to deal with. That's what you do. Don't anguish over what you can't do. Take joy in what you can do. That's it for the day. Get your medical supplies, your energy, cleaning, your essential oils now while you can. Your firearms, ammunition. Never, ever give up your guns. Please do have a fun, safe, productive day. And God bless America.